Welcome to the Hugs Not Drugs podcast. This is episode 50, part 2 of How It Works, Why the 12 Steps Still Matter. Got the characters here. John G is going to be your narrator. I'm doing the intro and the outro. I'm Hugs Not Drugs, your spiritual guide. And John Barleycorn is going to share his experience, strength, and hope from his long-term recovery effort. And of course, we have the mischief maker, the master of disaster, the chaos agent, and comic relief, Dr. Uggs.
Master of disaster, I like that. Wasn't that they called Larry Holmes that? At any rate, let me do the commercial now, okay? This podcast, the Hugs Not Drugs podcast, is sponsored by a prince of a guy, John Forlenza-Bailey. He's got these archetypes that go for him. The jester, the king, and the warrior. I wonder if you can ever figure that one out. Little brain teaser there. But let's get back to John Forlenza-Bailey. He sponsors the Road to Wellness workbook. That's a book that he wrote about 7 or 8 years ago for his private practice. And it had some very good success, and he thought maybe he should mainstream it and get mentors and people that need treatment on the cheap to do this workbook. So this workbook is designed to provide education, emotional support, and inspiration to persons suffering from addiction. And it offers step-by-step lessons for people striving to turn their lives around regarding abstinence, relapse prevention, family dynamics, and self-assessment to continue to discover self day by day. Recovery's up to you. Mentors help, journals help. You must exchange and surrender destructive behaviors for constructive ways of handling day-to-day stressors or triggers of life. No one deserves to continue to suffer from active addiction. Get better, do the work. Then last year, he wrote this book called The Transformation of Dr. Uggs. It's actually my story. But, spoiler alert, I transform into Hugs Not Drugs. The Transformation of Dr. Uggs is an original fairy tale that explains the progression of the disease of chemical dependency. If you're educated and academic, you may want to call it an allegory, not a fairy tale. It is not intended to be a story about blaming others for the acquisition of an illness. This fairy tale is intended to explain, not to blame. It is a story of discovery, insight, acceptance, and finally the right choices to live drug-free if one is chemically dependent. That's it for the commercial. Take it away, John G.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to make one more quick comment about step 7. You know, we humbly ask them to remove our shortcomings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when people think of humility, they think of, being proud, not being proud or arrogant or haughty or aggressive or, and it says that to have a clear and concise understanding of one's own self-worth, followed by a sincere desire to become what we're meant to be. And one of my mentors gave me this definition, which I'd love to share. The late Dale P. told me many years ago, he says, John, true humility is about an understanding of the relationship between God, self, others, and acting accordingly. And I need to remember that. So these steps, they do teach us humility, the growth and willingness. And so getting to step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed. And, the spiritual principle in the old days, they used to say brotherly love. And now it's, I would just say love in general, so this is where we get prepared to make that amends. And, and it's very important that we look at our defects of character and are willing to let go of all that stuff and understand what it is. Because when we get to step 9, make direct amends wherever possible. You can go and make an amends, which a lot of us, want to zealously do this right from the get-go. Well, now we need to go home and make amends after we get sober. And first we need to understand the full gravity, the full weight of what it is that we've actually done. And until we get through this inventory process, we're not ready to do that. And you could literally have someone say, yeah, I know you're sorry, SOB. spiritually off balance or spiritually off base person, and it's about having to demonstrate the willingness to change. So I need to be on firm ground with my sobriety as far as the first 7 steps before I, jump from 8 to 9. And so, John Barleycorn, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of what the doctor's credo is, prima non nocere, first do no harm. If I make amends from a purely selfish standpoint, that is not going to help another person. Of course, I need to know my wrongs, but I just don't need to repeat them. And that's very hard to do because I'm human and I may repeat them. But making the commitment and making direct amends wherever possible is going to heal not just me, but I may recover a relationship that was completely misunderstood. So recovery isn't about changing our thinking. It's repairing relationships if they're meant to be repaired. I had to trust God.
Yes, and even after my decades of recovery, I'm personally going through a situation right now where I'm hoping that through my efforts, an admission of my wrongdoing, that I can repair a relationship. And my prayer for that person is that they could look at this in the way that I think is always most effective for all of us, and that's it's always better to resolve the conflict than to dissolve the relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of times it's when we make a mistake these days, it's because we have positive relationships. So we continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. Like, for instance, the Don K, I lost my phone episode. I made some terrible mistakes just off the cuff, and I had a good relationship with somebody, and I did it passive aggressively. We've done communication exercises too, and I did it passive aggressively because I knew I was forgiven for any day's events because of the great man I was interacting with, Don K. So, but when I'm wrong, I need to admit it as promptly as possible, in one way, shape, or form, knowing that I can continue taking my inventory on a daily basis. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm not a mistake. Neither is anybody else. Yeah.
So, yeah. So we continue to take personal inventory, and when we're wrong, promptly admitted it, and that promptly admitting is a tough one, and I try to do a daily inventory, but there's something that I have to admit right now that I still need to tend to, and I've let it go a few days just to let things settle in, and because I'm trying to think about the right approach that I need to take with this person. So, it's like easy does it, but do it. So what do you think about that, Dr. Ruggs?
Yeah, what do I think about it? I think it's a daily reminder that I'm still capable of being ridiculous. Well, I'm capable of being ridiculous without even trying. I'll tell you that.
You got that right.
Well, if it wasn't for you, Dr. Ruggs, we wouldn't be able to look at the big picture and remember, not to base our recovery on what's going on today, but to look about what it was like the day before we came in here.
It's a hard job to make John Barleycorn look good. You know what I'm talking about? Let's go to step 11.
Okay, so we're moving on to step 11 here?
Yeah, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God.
Yeah. And, and that's about awareness and God consciousness. And, and the way I try to look at it today is in contrast to some of my more recent behavior or certainly a lot of my past behavior, is that, I like what the great French monk Brother Lawrence said about 4 centuries ago. He says, I'm as close to God when I'm doing the dishes as I am when I'm on my knees in the chapel in prayer and meditation.
That's right. Yes, sir.
And when we truly develop that conscious contact, then we start to realize that we have 3 basic responsibilities, and that's to feed people, to love everyone, and to see God in everything. And my higher power certainly is in everything.
This is the step that reminds me love and forgiveness of self and others is really truly the answer. It's not me playing God. It's not me tapping into taking everyone's inventory.
Where's the fun in that?
It's called responsibility, Dr. Uggs, okay?
That's right. And so this is the spiritual awareness step, and which goes right into step 12. And, having had a spiritual awakening, we try to, share this message with other alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs, and whether that's for alcohol or whatever, but yeah, so we try to share all these spiritual principles, and the most important one at the end, which keeps us sober, is the service, when we get out of ourselves. And like my sponsor says, when I got up in the morning, the first person I thought about was me. When I went to bed at night, the last person I thought about was me. And if I thought about you or anybody else during the course of the day, it was only because it had something to do with me.
I know who your sponsor is. I'm going to shout out to him. Ron B. is the bomb. He is talking about real stuff there, and he's amazing. Of course, he'll never toot his own horn about how much service he does. He does a ton of service.
Well, he's a man who has a life of service, and that's why when I was searching for a sponsor, even though I had a couple of decades of recovery already, and my past sponsor had passed away, and when I saw him, I was looking around, and I said, this is a man that lives the program. It's a part of his daily life. And the other thing that he says that I like is, every morning when I get up, I have a choice of 2 paths. And actually, at any moment during the day, I have a choice of 2 paths. I could take the spiritual path, or I could take, as Dr. Uggs would prefer, I could take the psycho path.
Psycho.
The adrenaline of chaos. Don't we love it?
We give away what was given to us, helping others recover alive.
Yeah. So I guess we've covered the 12 steps there in some brevity, but it's time for us to move on. So, I was thinking about the book I had. It was a couple of books I had to read in grammar school. One of them was Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And another one was, I remember this young lady was on the front of it, and it was, I'm okay, you're okay. And but today we're going to talk about I'm not okay, you're not okay, and that's okay. So, many people know the phrase, I'm okay, you're okay. But, our recovery version truly is, I'm not okay, you're not okay, and that's okay. And what does that mean, John Barleycorn?
It just means we're human. Recovery begins when we stop pretending. I have defects, you have defects. We're works in progress. That's okay.
Wait. You mean I don't have to be perfect? I've been exhausting myself pretending.
Yeah, I know that, Dr. Ruggs. You must be exhausted because you've been running through my mind all day. So, exactly. The steps aren't about perfection, they're about progress. And as it says in the big book, we claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. What do you think, John Barleycorn?
Yeah. Shame says I'm broken. Recovery says I'm growing. And when we get cued or triggered to think that we're no good, we need to stop, pause, be aware, share the awareness, accept the awareness, and then do the next right thing. Ask ourselves, what would a healthy person do right now? Answer that and do that.
Exactly.
I'm not okay. You're not okay. That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and the hardest one of all is when I start asking myself, what would the master do? And, that kind of cuts through a lot of the BS for me when I think about, what my boss would do. And, and he's looking at me and he's saying, John, you need to work a deal here that's good for both sides of the table. It's not just about me. It's about the recognition of your needs. And sometimes we need to step out of ourselves and put other people first. And we can do that and set healthy boundaries. And it's through that awareness. And that's a result of working these steps.
Yeah.
So,
I want to ask you a question. Why do the steps still matter, John G?
Well, because literally millions of people have found recovery through the principles, through these steps. And, it's not an easy path, but it is the most worthwhile thing I've ever done. And I know that if I had to go through this again and again, which I do in some way, but if I had to literally start at the beginning every day of my life, I know the process would be worth it in terms of the personal growth that I would get and being, sober and not having to do and be what I used to be. So, and the steps get overlooked. A lot of times people come to meetings and they're like, well, it's I'm coming to meetings and I'm not drinking and, I have someone, I get a couple of phone numbers, I may talk to some people, but they don't work the steps. And, the greatest secret at Alcoholics Anonymous is that thing that we read, and it's in how it works, and we read it at every single meeting. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. So the steps, they teach us honesty, they teach us hope, they teach us faith, they teach us courage, they teach us humility, they teach us integrity, they teach us love, they teach us discipline, they teach us patience and perseverance, they teach us about God consciousness and true connection to others through service. So these principles improve every aspect of life. Literally every single aspect of my life has been improved as a result of having worked these steps. What do you think, John Barleycorn?
10-4 on that. The steps helped me become someone I could live with. Not somebody perfect, but somebody I could live with. And just better, and that's enough.
Oh, I hate to admit this, but the steps ruin my favorite hobbies. Blaming, avoiding, denying, excuse-making, self-pity.
Recovery tends to do that, Dr. Uggs. All right, let's bring in Hugs Not Drugs here and wrap this puppy up. I thank you, John G. You knocked it out of the park again with the education that you provide.
Well, we're all works in progress.
Well, yeah, here I am, Hugs Not Drugs here, same voice as John Barleycorn. Good show, guys. Chapter 5 begins with a promise and a challenge. This is my summary of this. The promise is recovery. The challenge is willingness. The 12 steps are not about becoming someone else. They're about becoming who you are meant to be. Remember, I'm not okay. You're not okay. That's okay. Together we heal. You got anything, John Barleycorn? Yeah, keep coming back. It works if you work it. And your recovery agent of chaos. Well, if you haven't,
okay, I was pretending to be John Barleycorn just then. If you happen to find serenity, don't panic. It's probably recovery.
This is Hugs Not Drugs reminding you that recovery is an inside job. Spirituality is a strength. Laughter is a medicine, and together we heal. Have a good day, everybody. And remember, 1, 2, 3. Hugs, not drugs.